right, so today is day number 12, and if you don't know me, my name's Alex Newman. I actually ran a $2 million a year business, and now I'm restarting from scratch, documenting the entire journey on here. And today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different, which is the concept of actually reaching your potential, not only in business, but life. Because it's been something that for the last good 6 months or so, I've been pondering and trying to figure out in my own life, because obviously, as a result of running and I guess being successful by all conventional means, then from that point on having to kind of take everything down and restructure and build it back up. It's been quite a journey, and now I'm finally getting to that point where I feel as though I am fully conscientious of what I want to do today, but then also in the long term. And I just want to share what my journey has been and how I actually plan to attack everything. Before I do that, a little update on the company and everything that's going on. So right now I've got, I believe, 5 clients on board, and essentially what my goal for today and tomorrow is just to make sure that everyone is good ahead. Everything that I need to do for them is done, squared off, taken care of. But then also let them know, I guess, what my schedule and plan of attack is going to be in the holidays so that they can kind of replicate the same. Because once again, I help coaches and I myself run a similar style business. So the market conditions are always going to be relatively the same. So now that I've actually covered that, the essential concept and what I want to actually talk about today goes down to a few levels. First off, you have got the idealistic level. So it's like, hey, what do you want to achieve in life when you die? Memento mori, what do you want to leave behind? The second level is going to be on a yearly basis. So 5 years out from now, a decade out from now, what do you want to achieve? And then it falls into the days and the weeks segment, which is how are you structuring the hours in your day, the minutes in your day to actually squeeze out the most and I guess pull out what you want of life so that on a day-to-day experience level, you are also happy. So I've actually gone down to my reading corner, as you can kind of see over here, to grab this book, and it is called The Magic of Thinking Big. It's by David Schwartz. It's an amazing book, and there's recently an interview by Jeff Bezos where he says pretty much the exact same concept in this book, which is that self-limited thinking, or the size of your thinking, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what that essentially means is that it's going to be the exact same difficulty to do something that is perceived as hard. So start a very hard business like sending a rocket in the air versus an easy business like doing a landscaping company or doing garbage removal. And essentially the reason why that is important is because when it comes to establishing the macro, right, what I was talking about, memento mori, your legacy, what you want to be left behind, and what you actually want to leave the world doing, you need to be able to think big and actually go after something that is important and matters. Because if you realize you're going to spend that same time working anyways, whether it is a landscaping job or whether it is, for example, like changing the world, solving world hunger. And if landscaping is what you want to do with your life, then that's amazing. There's probably some crazy visions with landscaping and like making the earth super cool. I don't want to knock that in any way. I'm just saying that you also should be going after that really core thing that if you could just change in the world, you'd be so happy with. And for me, it comes a lot down to education. Myself, I didn't do necessarily that well in school. I got by using like finesse and cheating and whatnot. And I want to do something very big in changing the education system, the kind of the way it works. Why I work with people that educate other people and, sell info, whatever it might be. But essentially, the reason why I say all this and want to talk about it is because you can emulate the exact same thing with your life. So right now, if you're running a business of any some sort, let's say you're a coach running a coaching business, you have the ability to set an overarching goal outside of just making a few $1 million. You can actually impact and change the world. You need to understand that once again, the size of thinking is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you think you can't do it, then you won't be able to do it. If you think you can do it, then you will be able to do it. You're going to spend those same hours working anyways. It's not going to change, right? You're still going to spend that time. It's not like you're going to live longer if you have a bigger vision. It's just the exact same. So that's essentially the overall macro thinking that you need to have. Now, going on to a weekly level of how do we actually achieve that, I'm going to cover that now. So in my opinion, when it goes from a grandiose vision down to the tactical of how it actually happens, what makes people succeed, and I guess what has just worked for me so far with some of the big goals that I initially set out for myself, has been tangibility. And when I say tangibility, I mean the ability to see something as if it already exists and create like a very clear mental image of what life could actually look like as a result of having that thing. So if you've got this massive goal, the next step that comes as a result of that and actually making it happen is going to be the tangibility of how it actually happens. So for example, let's just say that the goal that you want to set out is to make $1 million. And obviously that's not some massive, crazy, world-changing goal, but I just want to give it as an example because then I can do the very great example, make it tangible. So from that point on, you have the ability to break down every single step and tangibility of how it might actually happen. Like for example, if you want to make $1 million in a year, you know they need to make 78,333 and 34 cents. And if you do that every single month, then you're going to make $1 million in a year. And that's done. It's going to be super tangible in that vision. So now you can create that, and it's something you can actually attack on a day-to-day basis. You can ask yourself, well, how many leads do I need to get to do that? How many appointments do I need to get to do that? How many closes do I need to get? How expensive does my product need to be? And you can reverse engineer the entire process to make it tangible. The actual act of writing all that out, even if you can just imagine what it would be in your head, even if you know what the things are, the actual act of writing out the steps for doing that, even if you're completely wrong and the plan changed along the way, which it almost always will, just by doing that, it now becomes a clear image of your head as a path that you can actually walk towards, instead of just like where you are now and where the goal is. There's going to be a path that you can actually walk along in order to do it, and the path might have little bends that you didn't expect, but whatever, because you can make adjustments and then you're good. But there's still a path, whereas there wouldn't be if you just said, oh, well, I know that I need to charge this much, and I'm going to need to get a good amount of leads, so I might as well just start working right now. No, you have to make it tangible. And then from that point on, the final step that you have to kind of break down into is going to be the day-to-day level. Now, on a day-to-day basis, you win by just keeping things as simple as possible, and it's a lot more about removing things than it actually is about adding things. So now that you've got this tangible vision, the question that you need to ask yourself is, what is the least amount of work that I have to do in order to get to this thing? And I know that's a little bit of a different frame than what you typically hear of, like, oh, you have to work 12 hours a day, like, oh my, this is how you do it. But you can still do that. Essentially, what you want to figure out though is, what is the actual first principle, which is like the very most core principle concept of achieving something, to actually getting my end result. So when you do this, you start to realize that a lot of the things that you'd actually spend time doing don't make a lot of sense. For example, if you were doing meditation every single morning, well, is there a prerequisite that meditation has to be a result of getting my goal? Well, if you're trying to be a yogi monk, then probably. But if you're trying to make money online, well, then you can see how it fades to the wayside. It can be something that you add in if it has other life benefits that align with where your mind wants to be. But for the actual act of tangibility of getting that goal that you set out for yourself, it does not apply. So you have two options. You can either change your goal so that actually facilitates things added to your goal, or you can not do it because you realize that it's no longer essential. And essentially, that's what you want to keep doing. You want to keep going on and either adding things to that big tangible vision that you have, or you want to be removing them because they're not essential and you don't need them. And if you can continue to do that on a day-to-day basis, you're going to slowly end up with a life that you actually want. And the final thing that I'll say about the day-to-day, which is kind of a hack that I realized, is, and you hear this all the time, so it's not going to be something new, but the actual care for your time in every single minute is one of the biggest differences between someone that achieves this big grandiose goal and someone that leaves it by the wayside and doesn't actually go ahead and pull it off. If you can care about every single minute and track every single minute to know what you are doing and make it a good use of your time, that is going to be the biggest barometer of, hey, can I actually pull this off? Because the second that you start caring about your time and you realize that every minute you are dying, then you can actually flip that frame and use it as an ability to actually go out there and get work done. But that is my big rant about how you can actually achieve your potential. So if you don't have something like this in your life, please implement it. It's going to honestly just give you so much more purpose, and you can actually impact the world the same as you see all the greats of the world that you always just see flown around, scattered up, flying on, doing whatever. But you can be one of them. And I hope the value that you got from this video was worth the time that you spent, and I will see you tomorrow.